Hello everybody and welcome to VFR. Today we are here at Cleveland International Airport. We're going to be taking the DC-6 out in United Colors up to Chicago Midway. I'm just playing with the new scenery by Drzecki Designs. And yeah, should be fun. This is a good kind of classic United flight for the DC-6 out of Cleveland, which used to be one of the big hubs. And Midway, which again is kind of a big post-war Chicago airport. Perfect for the DC-6, especially in the early years of the DC-6. Again, we're flying kind of 60s United, but whatever. So we're going to do that. We're going to do a little bit of flight planning too, and just kind of go through some of how we're going to figure out how to get to where we're going. So again, we are here at Cleveland, KCLE. We got everything out, so we can go ahead and ask the guys to start working on the before start checklist. As far as our load is, we've got about half fuel, and 68 should we have a full load of passengers today. So while they're doing this, Cleveland, we are KCLE. I'm just getting charts situated. And again, the goal is just kind of act like we were flying this on VATSIM. So it is worth going to our EFB, which is a little anachronistic in the DC-6. That's all right. So we got Chart Fox up now. We're going to look at departures out of Cleveland. What basically the magic number we're looking for is no RNAV. We do have a DME, so that's okay. And we are looking for anything that's not turbojet only, so that's not going to work. And if it doesn't, we would just file direct, but RNAV. This is the kids one. Where's RNAV one?
Seatbelts and pedals. Adjusted. Throttles.
So we'll probably just head directly out of Cleveland.
Set to idle.
So I'm not seeing anything super great.
Forward and 3.
But then into Midway, we'll probably take the Goshen 7 arrival coming from the west, GSH, and we can punch that into Sky Vector. So KCLE to K Midway, KMDW, 266 nautical miles. Let's see. This is what we want to do is the Goshen 7 in. So what would I call this here? GSH.GSH7. You're getting this kind of live, so I haven't really tried this. Cleveland Hopkins. No, we want Midway. Goshen 7 here. See if that takes. So GSH is out here. And then what Goshen 7 is doing is it's basically just taking us straight into the Chicago Heights VOR. From GSH on the 270 radial outbound. And we just stay on the Goshen 270 outbound to Chicago Heights radial 087. And yeah, then we'll get our radar vectors to the final course. So that is CGT. I think there's a way to put it in as the actual approach, but who knows? All right. So those are 2 ones. And then out of Cleveland, what do we have here? We do have one to the south, Mansfield, MFD. Do we have any other options? Well, we could use the, this is Dryer, DJB, on our way out. So DJB. And what's that leg? That's 175 nautical miles. It's not completely unreasonable to navigate off of that, but OLK would be a good kind of intermediate. Takes us, well, actually, OLK or South Bend. So if we want to go a little south or a little north is really the question. So that's Goshen right there. I guess that does take us a little further out of our way for not much benefit. 200 or 175 nautical miles. Yeah, so we'll fly that. That should be fine. That's we can get halfway away and then switch over, and we should have enough range to do something like that. But if we do get into trouble, we can hunt down one of these other VORs, Webster Lake OLK, or even Litchfield. We could do that. So that's what we'll fly. We'll do DJB, GSH, and then CGT. And I'm just going to write down those frequencies now before I forget. Dryer, DJB, it's going to be on 113.6, and then we're going 266 inbound, and 280 outbound. And again, we're just basically fly due west until we hit Goshen, GSH. And from there, we're on the Goshen 7 arrival, which is 113.7. And we're tracking 270 out and 280 in. And then finally, Chicago Heights CGT, 114.2. 270 in, 33. Well, that doesn't sound quite right. 332. It says to stay the chart here. CGT radial 087 outbound. But that's 321 basically towards Midway. We'll punch in 087/332. Okay. So we are all set. We've run before start. I'm going to go ahead and get us pushed on back. Not that there's a ton. Well, we may need to start on the ground. Let's see. If we pull the ground power unit, go to battery, we can push on out a little bit. Parking brake out. And we'll just bring up the speed. So I'm using toolbar pushback now, just mostly for the pre-planned feature. We're not really using it now, but just to give us a little push out of the way. We'll stop the push here. And this is good enough for me. So we can turn the ground power unit on. Make sure it's actually connected up here. There should be a switch that says ground power. That's what we want. And we are ready to start the engine. I also thought I said Bendix radios. Okay. So up on the top, we got engine 3. We got boost pump still low. We're going to go the other engine, engine 3, the other 3. And make sure we have fuel flow down here. We do have fuel pressure, I should say. So let's hit the start button.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost, prime. Come on down here, and number 3. See if we get that going. Yeah, I still got the EFB up, which is not going to help. So that's one engine started, looks like. Engine 3. And we'll just rinse and repeat for the rest. Engine 4. 4. Both. And start. So thanks for coming along tonight. It's just going to be a more casual flight in the DC-6. We're not online or anything. Boost. Prime. Get that going and just make sure we have life. Interesting. So I'm getting, yeah. Oof. All right, 2 more engines. We got engine 2. Fuel pump to low. Engine to both. And here I've also seen sometimes you take away the ground power. They already got rid of it. Boost prime. And then just give it some fuel. And we got life. Magnet's both. Fuel pumps to low. Select the engine you want to start. And 1 more. Boost prime. We are down to engine 1. And that one didn't take. So we'll try that one more time before we just verify we have everything where we need it. Boost pumps low, all that's good. We have fuel flow, we do.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost prime and give it some mixture. And see if it all keeps pointing in the right direction. Alright, stand by 1 second. I gotta switch some controls around. I think I'm still in fast jet mode. Ooh. Didn't like something there. I see. Okay. Alright, welcome back. Let's see. We lost a couple engines because I starved them of fuel. But we do have control over our throttles now. Let's try this again. What engines do I have? I think I just have 3 right now. So all the mystery and magic is gone. Let's take this out. Let's just kill all the fuel that I don't have. And, yeah, engine 3 is the only one working current. That's my fault. It's a control switching around issue. This airplane doesn't like when you... If you have mixture bound to a... It doesn't like that either. Let's try 2. No, look, this airplane doesn't like when you have mixture bound to an axis. It screws it all up. So it's not liking that either. Alright, let's go back to the guys. We can turn everything off. And just rerun our before start checks. The boost pumps can all come off. But that's the kind of troubleshooting you do when you have 4 engines. Just go over everything one more time. So, thanks for coming along again. We're just kind of casual Thursday night flight in the DC-6. Flying some Mainliner ops out to Cleveland, out from Cleveland to Chicago Midway. We're on the ground here. We did a little bit of flight planning here as United 270. We're going to fly basically VOR to VOR out over much of Ohio and over to Illinois. Now the question becomes, have I completely borked it? Or maybe I'm doing too much. Let's abort and put it into ready to start. We'll try that. All right, so all that's good. My top panel looks reasonable. I hear it going. There we go.
6, 9, 12.
Boost prime. So, this week on Engine Start Simulator. Let's see if that keeps. Looks like it will. So again, just had a DC-6 itch tonight. I don't know why. Hopefully we'll stay in the air this time. If you missed the last stream, basically we had an issue coming out of New York, I believe it was.
12.
And we just could not, it just didn't like whatever we did on that flight. I think I busted an engine on takeoff, was what happened. That's my theory, at least. But I really have no proof of that. Boost prime. I gotta get at the mixture. That's doing a little better. Okay. So we are a fully loaded DC-6, 68 passengers and some cargo, a couple thousand pounds. So we should be pretty fully loaded. Probably a wet takeoff. I believe our gross weight's 102,000 pounds.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost prime. And down to the mixture. And that's engine 2, the last one. And again, I should verify the fuel pressure in each time, but I'm not the best DC-6 pilot in the world. Boost prime and that didn't sound great. Nope, didn't like that. Both one on low. While we're waiting, KCLE METAR.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost prime and a mixture. It didn't like that start either, really. Alright, so let's take a quick pause. We'll just let it check our report card here, make sure we're not chewing anything up too bad. One, both. Weather today, Cleveland, no wind, 10-mile visibility. High ceiling, 299.1 inches of mercury, and VFR. So it's really dealer's choice as far as which runway, and in that case, we might as well take off 24 left, which is going to be the closest one to us. Let's go start.
3, 6,
What is this, third time's a charm?
9, 12.
Prime. And mixture. Come on. Okay. So there's the mainliner. All right, let's get rid of that ground power unit once for all. And ask our buds to run the after start checklist. Now, for my purposes as the pilot, we're going to dry our first DJB 113.6. Up here we can...
Generators and inverters. Checked and on.
113.6.
Armed.
And then after that is just straight to Goshen 113.7.
After start checks complete.
And then over here, I like to put these in as 113.7. And then the last one's going to be CGT 114.2, Chicago Heights 114.2. And that way we're all dialed in on both radios. Alright, so they've run the after start checklist. We are about ready to go. Now, we're here at Cleveland. We're just on the ramp. Cleveland is not a huge airport as far as taxiways are concerned. So if we pull up the chart, we just got basically two long runways, 24 and 24 left and 24 right. We're just going to taxi to 24 left via Juliet by holding Lima 7, and then that'll be it. So if we were on VATSIM doing some traffic, untowered ops, that's what we'd probably say. Juliet, Lima 7. Alright, so parking brake can come off. Let's see if we can try and power back a little bit. Yeah, we're going backwards. So we're going to power back. Again, the important thing with powering back is just not to brake too hard. Otherwise, you end up with a tail strike. So we're going to back off and basically go to our left. It's going to be 2-4. We're just kind of on the almost not great range in terms of engine RPM. That's all right. All right, and that's probably fine. We'll knock it out of there and just power forward to stop going backwards a little bit. And then once that's good, we can taxi on out to the left. So again, just looking at our fuel load manager, our gross weight's going to be 92,000 pounds. 90,000 is the rough number for a wet takeoff. So we will do a wet takeoff with water injection. As we taxi on out. And here's the runway right over here. So if we just taxi out here and to our right, that'll take us out to runway... Oh, I see. So Cleveland's... that's Lima, not Juliet. So Juliet, we're going to go Juliet. What I think... That would put us on Lima. But if we stayed on this way, it would be Juliet. So we'll go Juliet. Juliet 6, Lima 7. So what we said was not incorrect. In whole. Alright, so hold short 2-4 left. It's a good and opportune time to run before takeoff.
Boost pumps on low.
And get everyone set up.
And crossfeed. Main tanks and crossfeed off. Autopilot and carb heat. Off and cold. Hydraulic system. Down, forward, pressure and quantity checked. Okay. Flaps 20. Flaps set 20. Windows and turbine. Closed and on. Controls. Gust lock released. Free. Detonator. On. Mixture and cowl flaps. Reach unlocked. Set. Transponder. On. Landing lights. Extended and on. Before takeoff checks complete.
All right, so that's a mark Q. Let's power up a little bit. Roll it out onto the runway. All right, so again, 92,000 pounds, which is just heavy enough to ask for a wet takeoff once we're satisfied with the lineup. And then on takeoff, the last thing we should probably tune in is the radio we want to fly. We want to fly 266. 266. There we go, 266. That's 27 and 26. So it's really going to be basically a slight left turn off the runway here at 24. Or a slight, it really should be a slight right. We'll see. And just double checking sky vector to make sure that is correct. Yeah, so a slight right. And then that'll take us to the VOR, and then 280 outbound. All right. That's enough sitting on the runway. Wet takeoff, please.
On. 30 inches stabilize. 30 inches stabilize.
All right.
Stabilized. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps set. Full power, please. Going full power.
Again, this is a wet takeoff, so I think we're going 59 inches of manifold pressure. 59.5 is the magic number.
Full power set.
And that's our cue. We'll just keep it on center line. And about 100 knots we'll rotate. So we are away. Thanks for joining us. If you're just joining us, we are departing Cleveland, KCLE, for Chicago Midway, KMDW. Airspeed's alive. That's 80 knots there, right there. And here's 100, so we'll just give it a little back pressure. And holding it. And let us fly on up.
Auxiliary, gear up. Gear selected up. Gear up, lights out, pipes up. Flaps going up.
So that VOR, as we fly out, it should just start to come in just a smidge. We'll just point ourselves at the VOR.
Setting meter power, 48 inches, 2600 RPM.
And again, we're just trying to pitch for 165, I believe, on the climb out. As we make our right-hand turn to about 266. And we're away. Speed's picking up now.
Climb power. City climb power.
We'll lose a little bit of power as they bring the power back to climb power, which is 40 inches of manifold pressure and 2,400 RPM, I believe. A good number to know, just in case you have to do any climbs or descents. 40 inches and 24 RPM for your climb power. And we still got plenty of speed, so we can pitch up a little more.
Takeoff checks complete.
And I don't know what a flight like this would have cruised at, but we're just going to go up to something around 14,000 feet or so. Which is just kind of below where we would start to need our superchargers. And we are climbing out of Cleveland. Obviously, you can't see Cleveland this way, but we got the Great Lake over there. And Cleveland out behind us. And we can start to trim for this climb. Again, I haven't kicked in Gyropilot or anything yet. We're still hand flying at the moment. Now the next question is, what is going on at Midway? KMDW. And we are about 5 miles from our VOR station. So we're just going to try and hold this heading and not get too spooked by the radial. We're going to change that to 280. So 27, 280, and we'll fly 280 outbound from Dreyer. Now it looks like we got a 10 knot wind, 030 at Midway, which would put us on 22 right, which is the opposite of the way I've been flying the last couple days. So that should be interesting. We'll get some clouds, not a ton as we get out there, but altimeter is still basically 2991. And we're climbing through 4,500 feet. We're pointed at the VOR station. Pointed at the VOR. And we're climbing out. So, welcome aboard our United flight to Chicago Midway. We are, if anyone's asking, United 270. And this is kind of a classic, I don't know about DC-6, but prop liner route out of a old United hub. Cleveland to Chicago, two big Midwestern cities. You got the second, so that second VOR just came in. That's the Goshen VOR 113.7, and we might lose it again. We'll continue our climb on out. We're about 1 mile from Dreyer now. And now we're seeing it go switch around. We're just going to keep flying out that way, and there's the radial. That's going to come in here in a second. And then just gut checking ourselves on Sky Vector, what direction we think we should be turning, and it should be just a slight right-hand turn to intercept that radial at 270. Or that radial 280 outbound. We're going to basically fly up with Lake Erie on our right until we hit Michigan. So again, we're doing some prop liner, some mainliner action here in the DC-6 for our Thursday night flights. Tonight, again, just kind of a nice chill night for some DC-6 action offline. Listening to the radials. And, yeah, just doing a good flight. We're going to be flying into the Drzewski Designs Midway Scenery, which is plastered with Southwest. Not particularly period appropriate for a DC-6 United flight. I debated doing this as like a modern, restored DC-6, using the full GPS and everything. That might be a fun exercise. I'm still a bit intimidated just doing VOR to VOR navigation on VATSIM, so having a GPS would be helpful, but we shall see. So we're climbing through 6,500. We just want to keep on climbing up. Weather's good today. Pretty clear. I did not catch the temperature, but the temperature in Chicago is going to be 57 degrees F. Broken clouds. So pretty nice, actually, all things considered. Again, winds out of the north, so we'll probably be shooting an ILS for 22 right or something like that into Midway. Now, I chose Midway to fly into just because it's kind of a classic old-school airport. It was Chicago's main airport into the 1950s, which is squarely DC-6 territory. All those big crossing runways make it an interesting airport and kind of an old-school airport in that respect, where planes were more at the mercy of the wind and you needed more options. So, 22 right. Oh, I'm still on Cape Cleveland. Alright, and while I get distracted by other things, this is a good time to utilize our gyropilot. Get a little bit of help. And we'll just keep that climb ramping up. We're gaining some speed. We don't really need that much speed. We just want some altitude at the moment. So approaches into Midway again. We're expecting the 22s. Looks like the 22 right is just our nav. I don't know if we'll get any GPS, any ILS action out of there. No, so it looks like our options are ILS 4 right or 13 center. What's the wind saying again? That's Cleveland. So it's 030. So 13 or 3. Maybe, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe 3. Yeah, maybe 3-1 center is the way to go. If we're looking for the ILS. We'll keep an eye on the weather as we get there, too. We've got a little ways before that comes up. That is an issue that will force itself eventually. But for now, we're just climbing out. Again, we're counting up to 175 or down to 0 if we go over to nav 2. Let's see what this says. This says 160. So we've already got the Goshen VOR tuned in and we're picking it up. So we have the nav 8 on the other end. We're not flying too blind. So another fun thing about Midway where we're flying, big Southwest focused city, not technically a hub, but lots of Southwest activity, which is, if you're, you know, looking for somewhere for a potential 737 of some kind to fly into, a very good and realistic and sensible option. The other thing we can do here while we're sitting, waiting to climb up, is figure out how we're going to get down. So, let's just say we're at 14,000 feet. The ILS puts us at 5,000 feet, 14 miles out. So we'll say 5,000 feet is our... We'll descend down to 5,000 feet and go from there. Which means we would need to burn 11,000 feet. Or no, 9,000 feet. Math is hard. 9,000 feet times 5 nautical miles per 1,000 feet. That's about 45 nautical miles. Plus 20 means we need to be about 65 nautical miles from the start of the ILS, which again, it's about 15 miles from the localizer. All that to say, our last leg of the trip's about 20 miles to the north. We'll see where we actually get vectored in, where we vector ourselves into, but 65 nautical miles. So it might be safe to be at 5,000 feet around Chicago Heights as we come in for the approach. Now the 3-3-3-1 is basically the way we're coming in. So we'll be able to we shouldn't have to maneuver too much. We should be in kind of the right area. So yeah, that makes some sense. At Chicago Heights, we want to be at 5,000 feet. So we'll backtrack that out. 65 nautical miles means that we want this number, well, not this number. We want this number to be 65. Minus 70. No. We'll want, yeah, this is the Goshen. Once we hit Goshen, we will pass Goshen. And about 5 miles from Goshen, because I'm just rambling about math. Let's show you. 5 miles from Goshen, we got 70, so 70 miles from Goshen to Chicago Heights. We need to descend for about 65 nautical miles, with the goal being 5,000 feet at Chicago Heights. So we'll probably just start our descent around the Goshen VOR, 70 nautical miles, so 65, a little bit past it would do just fine. And that's part of that's getting down to the right speed too for approach. We just need some time for that. So to answer that question, what number we need here, it's like 0. We need that to be 0 or that to be 165 or so. And that is 13,400 now, so let's keep an eye on that as we're going. And we're actually lined up pretty well, but we can go to localizer mode anyway and just let it take the reins. Now we are going to need to level off. Just start thinking about bringing the pitch back down. That's a fairly aggressive maneuver from the gyro pilot, but that's all right. 700, 800, and we'll just keep bringing that pitch down a little more. And just keep it coming. We're in a place now where we could really knock it into autopilot or into altitude hold. And there it is. So 14,000 feet. We will level off and the speed's going to come up. Alright, so thanks for coming along. We are, again, en route to Chicago Midway. somewhere over Ohio at the moment, I believe. But getting closer over to Michigan. Now, do we actually hit Michigan, or do we just skate through Indiana? That's a good question. This is just a big Midwest flight again. Kind of classic United 50s, 60s ops. Flying in the Mainliner, the DC-6. We are inbound. So we're flying currently outbound from the Dryer VOR DJB. We got about 160 nautical miles to the next one. 136 now. So as we pick up speed, that'll help. About 36 minutes away, 35. Once we get down to like 100 nautical miles, we can swap over to that. And we'll just track inbound to that 280. So doing some VOR nav. And then just to check, make sure all our fuel quantities are looking reasonable. All our engine gauges are still pointing in the right directions. I don't think we've broken any engines today so far. And just check that out. Our oil temperature is a little moderately stressed. It looks a little high. But we have been climbing for a while. So I believe the autopilot will follow a GPS path if you punch it in to the GNS 430. It basically just treats each waypoint as if it were a localizer from the autopilot's perspective. So it's like you're flying that radial into that waypoint, and I think it just feeds it into the actual gyropilot system. So when you put it in localizer mode, it treats it as if it's flying to the localizer. Which should be accurate to how a more modern retrofit of this airplane would be operated. I believe so. It's been a while since I tried that, though. So we're now about up to speed. Out over the American Midwest. Lots of square and rectangular farms. So yeah, and again, that's probably the configuration I would use if I'm going on VATSIM with this thing. It's just helpful to have. But I've never been the biggest, just the slant alpha kind of guy doing RNAV only stuff. I think that's great. But it does take a lot. It takes a lot of practice to get the pure instrument navigation without GPS right. But it's definitely worth doing if that's something you're interested in. So we got fuel. No. Well, we might be, let's see. What's our outside air temperature saying? It's saying 0 to 10 Fahrenheit. -10 Celsius. So we'll see as we get closer to these clouds. We may have to employ some of our anti-icing panel. We will see. It's all pretty simple. You just turn it on. There's no great mystery or tricks to how this all works, but I will have to remember what switches do what. So far, so uneventful. Again, if you joined us on our last DC-6 flight, it was a bit... Well, the flight from New York to Boston was a little bit hairy. The flight back down was nice and smooth and quiet like this one, so far. Knock on wood. So yeah, we'll try and shoot an ILS approach into Chicago Midway. We'll probably come in on 3-1 center. We might have a little bit of a crosswind, but... We'll also just keep an eye on the weather as we go. Currently showing 10 knots at 030. Oh, I'm reading that backwards. I don't like... yeah. So, 4 left would be what... that would actually work, wouldn't it? I don't know why I'm talking about all this as if I'm... Yeah. Okay, so that's more what I thought originally. So I'm reading the METAR-TAF website. So if you're not sure what I'm looking at, I don't usually look at this, but METAR-TAF website. It's wind direction in terms of what runway you're supposed to use. It's one of those things that if you think about it too much here, it's easy to confuse yourself. Like if you start asking, well, is it the wind into or the wind out of? You're asking the wrong question. No, you're asking the right question. But the key is really not to think so much. You want the number that the wind is coming out of. So it's 030 at 10, which means I'm going to want the runway 04 because that's closest to 03. And I'm seeing the arrow and it's throwing me off. So yeah, we're going to come in on 4. It's saying 4 left. What we want really is 4 right, which is going to be an ILS localizer for 4 right. No need for a crosswind. That'll actually give us a nice stiff headwind into Chicago Midway. So the more you know. Wind is hard and confusing. And I also have neglected to run the cruise checklist. Let's run that. Doesn't really do anything too horrible. We're just burning lots of fuel. Going probably faster than we should.
Cruise power is set.
Right, so that's cruise. We're now down at, what, 35 inches of manifold pressure, 2200 RPM or so. We're cruising out. We're making a good 210 indicated, saying 235 ground speed relative to that VOR. The engines do come down quite a bit, especially from, I mean, you can really hear it even in, you can hear that in real life if you watch videos of the DC-6 too, just the engines that when they go takeoff power, they add a little power. They do make a lot of different, they do sound different at different power levels. So yeah, coming off of that, back to cruise, that's actually kind of what tips me off to like, oh, I haven't run the cruise checklist yet, is it's kind of still kind of loud in here. But yeah, prop planes are loud in the cabin, and this is no exception. 35 inches of manifold pressure. No engine excitement. Not today, Snip. Thanks for coming along. No engine excitement, thankfully. It's been nice and quiet. We departed out of Cleveland, made a little right-hand turn, and yeah, we've been climbing out. We climbed to 14,000 feet. No issues. It's been behaving just wonderfully today. So, who knows? Maybe maybe we'll have some fun on the on our approach into Chicago Midway, but who knows? So again, just kind of a nice, pleasant evening cruise out over the American Midwest, Cleveland to Chicago, and what's really a pretty classic, old school United type flight for the DC-6. Just putting it through its paces. So, yeah. It's good. Good time. I've also been playing around with this in Alaska a little bit more. Revisiting that. Saw some videos of DC-6s on Big Jets TV. Last night we were watching their stream from Anchorage. There was a DC-6 on that, which was pretty cool. So that's kind of that's kind of got me itching to fly a little DC-6 action out some of the airports. So I'm hunting on some freeway airports out there. We might take a trip up to Barrow or something. But, yeah, maybe doing some more modern DC-6 flying. So I would have to look at the, I'd have to look at the POH to see what the actual limits are. It can fly on 3 engines. You can do, so essentially what they say is you can do anything that you could do on 3 engines that you could do on 4 engines. So if you lose an engine, you're still okay to fly and land, or you can do a go around. There is a missed approach procedure with 3 engines. So 3 engines, not that it's business as usual, but you can do that. I think once you lose that second engine, you're into find an airport and put it down on the ground. So 3 engines, it's get to your destination or your divert field. 2 engines, it's find the nearest safest option, is my relatively uninformed opinion on that. Not opinion, but I think that's what it says in the POH. There are specific procedures for 3 engine operations, but they don't write specific procedures for 2 engine operations other than getting to the ground, I believe. I could be wrong. Which is that's part of the nice thing about having multiple engines in one case. I mean, it's good to have, it's better to have some engines than none. It's better to have more engines than fewer in multi-engine airplanes. Thankfully, I've not had to fly it on 2 or 1 engines. Might be an interesting case study, but it hasn't got that dire for me yet. It's a pretty common occurrence in my flights, but yeah, it should be, especially on a more modern jumbo jet, like your 747s. It's very rare, or your A340s. Those have 4 engines. I'm not as familiar with my Airbuses, but yeah, it's a big plus. But even modern airplanes. Modern jet engine reliability is such that the third and fourth engines are generally unnecessary, because most modern jets can fly on 1 with and they have 2, and that rarely fail. So the 4 engine planes are kind of out of fashion, but in the DC-6's day, you probably would be you know, it was more common of an occurrence to lose an engine. And is this a full study level plane? That's a good question. Yeah, I would say so, but I'm not qualified to say so. Certainly. I would say it's a high fidelity model of the DC-6. As a non-answer. So we're at what, 77 miles? We can probably go over to the other VOR now. So we're just going to change just our nav source. So gyro pilot mode, that'll just keep us pointing straight. And then let's see what the damage is. 133.7. And again, 280. So it's saying we're a bit off and we're off and to the right of our course. So it's saying we're a bit to the north of where we should be. I believe, and I don't have any good visual references here. But it is close enough. So we've got it in. I don't like localizer mode gets real bad if the localizer is not in view. Yeah, and to clarify on that last discussion, a 747 probably can't fly on one engine, but modern airplanes like the 75 or the Dreamliner 787 can fly on one engine for a long ways, for hours, and it just kind of makes the idea of having 4 engines less and less necessary when you have 2 very reliable engines. Back in the old days with the DC-6, yeah, it's good to have 4 engines because you might lose 1, you might lose 2. Flying with an engine out is not super uncommon in this world. All right, so we're pointing our nose towards the needle. We're just letting the airplane do this and get us back on course using localizer mode. Yeah, we're about 70 miles out. Well, so N2 now. 70 miles out. We can punch in our next one, which is going to be Chicago Heights 114.2. So 114.2. And then just out of... We'll cycle this too. So I don't need that here. I need that here. And then, just out of curiosity, we're looking for the ILS for 4 right, which is going to be 111.5. We won't pick that up for a long time, but it's just to have, if only to remind myself, oh, the ILS is 111.5. So 67 miles out. Again, our descent plan for today, we're up here at 14,000 feet. We're going to be descending down to 5,000, which is where the ILS starts, about 15 miles from the airport. And then we'll basically keep it going on down. That'll be, we'll see how that goes. It's just going to be kind of a longer descent than we normally would do. We will try it out. And let me just make sure that this is still operating. Because I think I hit this button, so if you hit that button, the localizer mode may not like it that much. Alright, so thanks for coming along again. We're doing United Mainliner Ops. Cleveland to Chicago. flying around what I believe is now probably northern Indiana. Oh, and it is St. Patrick's Day still. I had forgotten about that. I had debated doing... I remember that earlier today, and debated switching plans and doing something in Ireland. But it does vary in how big of a deal it is around the world. And within the U.S., really. Quite a bit. But maybe... maybe we'll do some Irish flying. I have done some CRJ work out there, but DC-6 would be a good one too. Yes, it is, and that is, that's cheaper than it was, I think, in P3D, I believe. It was on a little sale just as it came out, which I was pleasantly surprised about, but, yeah. It is still not the most expensive flight sim add-on I've bought. That still belongs to the DCS Hornet at sale price. But it is good fun if you like a good detailed airplane. We'll see what 737 comes out as. That'll be, I think, really telling. Alright, so we're now pretty solidly on the radial too. That's good. 280 is still what we're looking for. And then at Goshen, we're going to go 270 outbound. About 50 miles. 15 minutes at our current pace. Well, that's all looking okay. It's a little bit cold outside. Yeah, all I'll say is it's not necessarily the cheapest hobby, but it is cheaper than flying for real. By quite a bit. So, look at the DC-6 is, if you're in a low cost of living area, a PMDG DC-6 is maybe an hourly rental. Nah, probably not. It's probably a little, that would be very cheap. So it's like half or a third of an hour of a time in a real Skyhawk if you're looking for that. But yeah, I prefer not to think about that, if I can at all help it. But again, planes that you come back to are really definitely worth it. In my experience, if you're motivated to learn the plane and fly it up a lot and get something out of it, definitely worth it. And as a small community creator / member, I also do like to support the community in what ways I can, because I enjoy it. Alright, so we are cruising here. So far, so quiet. It's good to, always good to see. Here in our DC-6 by PMDG. Yeah, Snip says it's also fun to take the plane up to flight level 210 with the superchargers. Yeah, and I don't remember what your max altitude is on this thing. But, you can go quite a bit higher than I am here. It's, yeah, you can really... We pushed it a little bit on crossing the hump. But, yeah, superchargers are useful. And it's not that hard to... I mean, it's not... It's a little bit of a... Not even. You just bring the power back and hit the switches, but... But it is fun to play with. We're in the clouds now, so let's just, let's see what heat we have available to us. We can turn our carburetor and prop de-ice. And we've got our cabin master heater on. We can turn on our airfoil heater too, just in case. I don't want to pick up any ice out here. We're still at like -10, so. Isn't that on a placard up here? Oh, we also got the, I forgot the windshield heat and anti-ice, which is off. We are in the... So that's 0 to -40, which is where we are. So that's good. Cockpit temperature, let's turn up the heat too. So Nathaniel asks, says, was the DC-6 pressurized? That's a good question. It was. According to the Delta Museum, it was Delta's first pressurized and air-conditioned aircraft. Yeah, and yeah, there's a panel to the right, one of these panels for pressurization. Up here, you got your cabin differential pressure here, and pressure. I mean, yeah, and all that. It's easy to gloss over some of that, but if you are, that's really, it is interesting too. Just because in sim I don't have a temperature, I'm not actually controlling the temperature in my room. That'd be interesting, but maybe quite uncomfortable too. But that's something that's easy to gloss over in all this. But it isn't very interesting. So the benefit of going up higher generally is just that there's less air to move out of the way, and you can usually cruise a bit more efficiently. And you go and you can go faster through. You can go faster over the ground for less true airspeed. So if I can cruise at 210 knots indicated airspeed on this knob here at 3,000 feet, that's slower on the ground than it is up at 21,000 feet, which is why if you want to go really fast up in a private jet, they go up to 41,000 feet. Now, I don't know how much more efficient it is in a DC-6, because again, you got to turn on your superchargers, and it's an old prop plane. But that's the general idea. Yeah, link the airplane to the thermostat. You could do that. I bet that would, yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't know how much of that, well, I don't know, if there are SimVars for it, you could. If Microsoft Flight Sim has that modeled somewhere in it, and you could pull that value out, you could do that. Actually, that wouldn't be that too hard if you had some kind of smart thermometer. Or smart thermostat system. But you also don't get you need the kind of stale air that you get on an airplane too. You know, if you've been on an airplane, it's just kind of a little bit different because of the, so you'd have to, I don't know. I wonder how much of that do they simulate in real full motion sims? I don't know. I would be interested to see that. Yeah, that would be the ultimate in sim home cockpit immersion. I mean, ultimately, it would be best if you had a room that you could just make really cold outside and then have another... You could And then you'd have your internal one too, and you'd have to do all that. But it would be quite the science project for a little bit of gain. Yeah, maybe not link air pressure. All right, 20 miles. 20 miles from Goshen. We're still on that 113.7 again. Then we'll just make just a slight left to 270. And then technically we'll be on the Goshen 7 arrival. So thanks for coming along, for just joining us. We're flying into Chicago Midway. We departed out of Cleveland, KCLE. Oh, I got an ETA to come in. I don't know why that comes in on the overlay, but Cleveland. We departed out of Cleveland. We're up at flight 410 flight level, or flight level, no, 140. And we're just cruising our way out to Chicago Midway. We got the Drzecki design scenery there that I picked up in a March sale. And it's been fun, so we're going to see some Southwest jets on the ramp there. But it's just kind of a classic old school airport. It's got lots of crossing runways, which is very, very typical of that era of aviation. With the DC-6 kind of prop liner era. And we can check and see what the weather's doing. It's looking about the same. Yeah, so we're still 0309 knots. Is what Chicago Midway is reporting in real life. We will take it on faith that that's what it's reporting in the sim too. And then again, for our descent, we're just really going to start our descent just past the Goshen VR. So the VR we're going into now, we will start our descent just after we hit that. Now my number 2, 114.2, I better check that number because I'm not saying Chicago Heights on here. And it could very well be user error. 114.2, no, that's right. So we will see if we get that second VR. Otherwise we'll, I don't know, we may have to pull up some other aid to help us. Yeah, we're just cruising along, make sure we still have some fuel in the tanks. We do. Make sure our engine gauges are all pointing in similar directions. They are. There are no real outliers. So far, so good. So, thanks for coming along tonight. Again, just kind of a cool, chill, weeknight flight in the DC-6. Had a little bit of a DC-6 edge watching them in Alaska yesterday. I figured it was kind of classic, good airplane to fly into a classic Chicago airport. Oh, and so we had a time change here in the States too. So my Zulu time is now different, I think. So okay, so that's saying 153 Zulu. I always get that confused. What's 129 right now? Which means 00 is 8. So that, oh hey. So I inadvertently started on time, I guess, because I said it started at 0 Zulu. I was running a little behind this evening. But we ended up starting at 00 Zulu thanks to daylight savings time here in the States. So again, it should move up to 2300 Zulu if usually. But yeah, during the winter months we get pushed back an hour. Thank you for coming along. It's been a good flight so far. No real drama, which is good. 6.3 miles. Again, we're approaching a nav aid, so it's good to get off a localizer mode because it won't like if it goes away. And then that just lets me update to 270. It should not be a long update. And then I'll just gut check myself on Sky Vector 2 and see what we have to do. So this is showing me 270 inbound. We'll get 270 outbound once we pass the VOR here in a minute or so. As we enter the zone of confusion. It is a bit cloudier than up here at 14,000 feet. Let's see, is that really what it's saying? It says no ceiling, few clouds at 10,000. Maybe. Alright, well, we're getting there. 2.3 miles. Needle's starting to get a little bit antsy. Hopefully this flips around. And there we go. We've lost it. And we should get it back in a second. Then again, we should really be in good enough position to just ask it to pick up that radial outbound 270. It actually did a good job there. But again, we're just turning left 10 degrees and pointing ourselves out. So 2.7 miles now. It's time to start thinking about descending. Again, it's not really going to hurt us to be lower sooner. Let's see if there's any airspace we might bust. No, not really. We're going to be flying into the... we'll be flying probably... Do we end up under the shelf? No. So we would be known to air traffic control if we were doing this. I mean, we're on an IFR. We would be on an IFR flight plan, but just out of curiosity. So, again, I like to just start coming down. We're going to shoot for between 500 feet per minute and 1,000 feet per minute, but closer to 1,000 feet per minute. As we begin our descent. And then once we're kind of established and going down a little bit, we can ask the guys to run the descent checks. Leave the rest of that de-ice on. Well, we'll turn it off because I don't believe we have any ice. So we're coming down about 1,000 feet per minute. And again, our floor today is going to be 5,000 feet. Chicago, it's going to have us coming in kind of high. And we will basically start our descent farther out, about 15 miles out from the airport. We will be on our final approach. And if that doesn't work, we'll go around at like 3,000 feet and do a more traditional DC-6 approach. And again, we're still not getting Chicago Heights on 114.2. Not sure if that's going to be a nav data issue or something else, or if we're just still out of range. Oh, hey, and speak of the devil. We just got it, so that's Chicago Heights. Gut check ourselves. About 60 miles away. Very good. And we can give it another knock or two. Keep it coming on and downhill. So thanks for joining us tonight on, again, a kind of relaxing DC-6 flight. Hopefully it stays that way as we descend into Chicago Midway International Airport. Going to shoot the ILS runway 4 right approach. This is, I believe, Well, I'm not going to say that. I don't know. That is true. Yeah, so, I mean, Midway usually, most commonly, I shouldn't say usually, but most commonly, we're getting 200 or something like that for the wind. So lately it's been, last few days, we've been landing runway 4 a lot. I don't know that that's the norm, but kind of an average of 8 knots or so for wind usually coming in. And again, generally out of the southwest and west. We're getting a little northeast action right now. So, yeah, speedometer's going up, so we can ask the guys to start bringing our power back while I talk and don't pilot. So 26 inches.
26 inches.
I don't remember what they do with the RPM here.
Descent checklist, please. Altimeters and flight instruments. Cross-checked.
Yeah, we're still 2901 on the altimeter. Oh, nope, 2904.
Low.
I don't know that I have that much precision here. 29. Yeah, I really don't have that much precision there, so 299. That's what we got. And just an altitude check, we're coming down through 10,500 now. We'll keep on coming downhill. We are about 47.1 nautical miles from the Chicago Heights VOR. And again, we're kind of built in our descent planning 20 miles before Chicago Heights to slow down. And then I'm just treating the last leg to the airport as our, just as our final approach. So we want to be on speed at 5,000 feet at Chicago Heights. And we'll bring it down through the clouds now. Snip, I have not flown the DC-6 in VATSIM. The controllers would, though. I mean, they fly these in real life out of real towered airports like Anchorage. So, yeah, the controllers would work with you to do what they have to do. I mean, I'm sure there are certain procedures that you can file and certain you can't. So you wouldn't be doing your fast jet SIDs and stars and approaches. But yeah, they would work. You would either request your descent if they're not familiar with your aircraft requirements. But yeah, you could absolutely. I mean, they do fly these things still in 2022, so you could file an IFR flight plan with just this. Again, I would, and we might do that soon, but I would use the GPS too, just to have that on board, because I'm a wimp. But yeah, I mean, ATC, you can't do something that ATC can't ask you to do something that your plane can't do. You're the pilot, and yeah, DC-6, Cessna 172, they would, and again, I haven't worked out the actual how you do that on VATSIM most effectively. In theory, you know, it's easy, but there's probably certain ways to make it easier on the controllers and help them out. But that just comes with experience flying it and trying it. What stumps me is what you file, filing the flight plans. I mean, really, you can file just direct and see if they let you do that, or if they're going to try and put. So you can kind of put it all, but you know, I don't know what. I don't know how much SIDS and star usage a DC-6 would get, because most of those are designed with fast jets in mind. And we talked a little bit about that at the beginning of we're going through the flight planning, just looking at each. I didn't find a good departure out of Cleveland that I liked. That wasn't RNAV required. And in that case, I just file direct to whatever VOR we did. So again, haven't tried it, but I'm sure there's things you can do. And they might look at you like you have 10 heads, but they're allowed to. They are allowed to judge. They just have to clear you. And more specifically to VATSIM, it's also controllers generally have a policy of accommodate if possible a pilot's request, so they'll try to work with you. 33 miles now and 7,000 feet, so that's looking pretty good. We don't probably need quite as much of an aggressive descent now. 7,000, yeah, so we'll dial it back again. It's not an exact science at this point. We really are in a good position to get down now. 6,800. And again, we're going down to 5,000 feet, so we're not going all the way down to 3,000 or 2,000. Well, we might get one of those today, descending out of 5,000 feet. Most approaches are designed for a 3-degree glide slope, which isn't out of the realm of possibility. You only really get really steep ones, approaches at special airports. Most big airports, as a final approach. Now, if you're stepping down from an altitude in an arrival, that's a different story. But yeah, most of them should be 3 degrees, because that's pretty standard. And fully trimmed out, that's what this thing will do. I think. I might be. But most ILSs are 3 degree. But yeah, and if you can't do that, that's something. I say to the controller, hey, I can't come in that steep, or say I'm unable to do this specific approach. Can we do a visual approach, or something else? So again, and in those situations, I think really the big thing is plain language. Just explain to them what you need succinctly, of course, but if they are at a because there are some like I think Atlanta brings you in pretty steep. I think San Francisco also has kind of a steep turn in one of their approaches. But if you can't do it, just say, hey, I can't. You just have to be able to communicate that to the controllers. Succinctly say, I'm going to need a slower descent. Can you give me vectors or something like that? And then when you're flying, oops, no, I'm still good, I think. Yeah, almost talked through 5,000 feet. But if you're, and then, yeah, there's a whole IFR theory component to that discussion too, which I am not qualified to speak to, because I'm not an IFR rated pilot, but there's a lot of nuance in how IFR clearances work and what approaches you can use when and all that, but that's the control in VATSIM land. That's really more of a controller's world than ours. We do the best we can. In real life, you need to know it, but there are some finer points about like which approaches they can clear you for when, but that's if you can't do a visual approach, and you would be able to pick up an ILS, a localizer somewhere, and fly it that way. All right, so we're 20 miles out now. We'll bring it back to about 175 knots, which will be what we're looking for. Then once we're past Chicago Heights, we'll run in range and basically just get established on the localizer. Yeah, so the other thing we could do, we're getting a little buffeting, but gyro pilot, keep us pointed straight at our current course. And just go over to the Chicago Heights viewer. We maybe should have been navigating off of Chicago Heights a little bit earlier. It's going to be off to our left a smidge. And this is just because as you get further from the VORs, you get a little less accurate in where your actual signal is picking up. So it's not perfectly aligned. So we're going to do a little DC-6S turn. And then once that starts coming in, once the needles start coming in, I will just knock it into localizer mode. So I still no I've tuned in the ILS frequency on our nav2. That way, when the bigger needle comes in, we can see when we picked up the ILS. Once we picked up the ILS, we can start to think about what we need to do. The other thing, there's actually if you look at the chart for, and the localizer needle's coming in, so I'm going to do a couple things at once. If we look at the ILS chart for 4 right, let me go localizer now. ILS chart for 4 right, there are radials listed from the Chicago Heights VOR. And we're going to go to Mainliner, I think. So Chicago Heights, we're going to track outbound 287 from Chicago Heights. And that will then let us intercept the localizer right about 14.2 miles from Chicago Midway Airport. In theory. And in practice, but we'll see if we do it right. Alright, so the airplane should turn right to get us back onto the 270 radial. And speed's looking good. We're 13 miles from Chicago Heights. And we'll use Chicago Heights as kind of the point where we... well, we're actually... So I'm still thinking we're going into 1-3, but 4 right. Does it say how far away it is? It should... Maybe not. So we'll have a little bit of a ways until we hit that, hit the localizer for 4 right. And we do have the localizer in now, so we now have some additional information. We are 26.5 miles from the Midway, runway 4 right localizer. So that's reassuring to see. Now, if we wanted some extra power, we could put it into cruise mode, but I am not too worried about it at the moment. We're just going to keep on trucking. So then again, once we're going to fly outbound 287, and I'm going to just go to gyro pilot mode now since we're 10 miles away. So let's get this set up. 287. So 27, 28, 28 and more than that. So 287 outbound. Now I believe that'll be a should be a slight right turn. And then we'll intercept the localizer from there. But we're looking good on speed. We have some altitude. And Chicago's going to be up that way. Here in our DC-6B Mainliner, United colors. We're flying the United 60s colors, more so than the 50s colors, although, well, no, because that's probably fair, because again, Midway is an airport because it's kind of got shorter runways than O'Hare does, which is the other big airport in Chicago, if you're not familiar. But O'Hare opened in 1955, and a lot of the newer jet airplanes needed bigger runways. They went to O'Hare. So DC-6 has probably continued to operate in and out of Midway. I say that solely based on that little factoid. But Midway's runways, just because of where Midway is, it's right in the middle of a kind of built-up area. So it has larger displacements on the thresholds of the runways, which makes their effective length shorter. 5.6 miles to Chicago Heights. And we have the ILS in on our nav2, so that is good. It shows us that there is actually an airport out there somewhere. So thanks for coming along and for joining us on a casual weeknight flight here in the DC-6 B Mainliner, doing some Mainliner ops from Cleveland, KCLE to Chicago. Now again, we're going to hit Chicago Heights, 287 outbound. Then we're going to basically fly until we see 14.1 nautical miles here, and that'll be when we're looking to intercept the localizer and start our descent. Once we get a little bit closer to that too, we'll start to think about running the in-range checks. It's 2 miles now. We are in gyropilot modes, so that's good. It's not feeding off the localizer that we're about to lose briefly. .2 now. Not quite past it, almost. This one is just taking its sweet time to flip around. And there it goes. And as we get further away, it should point directly back because we just passed it, but... And then we're going to make a right-hand turn. It's about 280. 287, so closer to 290, I should say. Just a fairly gentle turn. And then now our big thing is here. We're looking for the ILS. So I'm just going to keep it going straight. We could also at this point ask for vectors from ATC. And we'll start our in-range checks, because the next step is going downhill on the approach. We're going to be about 15 miles away. And we're still in gyropilot mode, so that's good. Our ILS is 1115.
No smoking signs.
So we'll swap our frequencies here.
On. In-range checks complete.
And again, as we count down, we're probably a little far away. But it's worth turning right to intercept the localizer at this point. And then we're just going to pay attention to the distances they want us to be at. So at 10.8 nautical miles, we want to be at 10.8 DME, we want to be 4,000 feet or above. So we can remove our altitude hold and just start coming downhill. At this point, we'll gain a little bit of speed. Does it put me in flaps 20? I can't remember at this point. No, I believe that's before landing. And I'm going a little too far, because I'm doing too much at once. We still need to be basically flying to the left. And then out. And just keep that coming. And we've got the, so we've got vertical component before we got the glide slope. Now we just gotta get the needles in. And it's a good and nice day, so once we get down to it, it'll be a visual approach, most likely. So we'll put that about 45 degrees from where we are. Which is a good happy medium to try and capture it as we come on downhill. And then once we're pretty well established on that, we'll go ahead and run before landing. We're getting a little above the glide slope, so I'll just knock it down a little bit more. And in fact, let's go ahead and get flaps out and stuff now. And we're getting some lift. You can see out there that kind of brown area is going to be midway.
Mixture set. Gear up and down, please. Gear up and down.
So we're falling behind the glide slope a little bit. That's okay. And you can see the airport there. I may have misjudged that a little bit.
2500 RPM set.
We're probably coming in a little bit too steep. That's okay. Visual approach.
ADI. ADI off. ADI is off. Bailey lights. Speed good. Extending lights. Lights extended and on.
Alright, we're getting the airplane nice and draggy too, which will help us come downhill.
Before landing checks complete.
Help us catch up with the glide slope a little bit. We're now 8.7 miles from the runway. You can see we're basically on a long right base. But this is where an IFR flight with just VRs would be real tricky. And power is mine now, so let's just take control and set that while things are a little calm. Glide slope's still a little out, but that's okay. And we'll give a little more. And come back on the power a smidge. Not all the way, trying to keep a minimum of 60 or so. I'm just trying to keep these needles alive in BMEP. And then slower descent that way. Start to work with this a little too. Stutter. And we'll bring it back up and just go a flap or a 100 BMEP as we get kind of nicely on the glide slope. So we keep looking around. The airport's going to come up here in a second, and we'll just take control and fly it. So we're going to have to make a right-hand turn here shortly. It will be somewhat important to make sure we have the right runway. We are looking for a particular one, for right. And we do have it in sight. You can see the needle starting to come in. Am I going to be quick enough to catch it? Maybe not. But this isn't the kind of place you'd really do a lot of parallel approaches, so it's not the worst thing in the world. And you do get the Chicago skyline in the background here. And we're a little above the glide slope, which, if anything, is okay. And I'm just trying to keep internal track of where our flaps are at. So that's flaps 40 right there. That's the other thing. It would be nice if only they had some kind of way to tell where your flaps were in front of you without looking down at your side. But that's why there's 3 people in this airplane. So we're still a smidge above the glide slope. I gotta just trim so that it's nice and behaved. We're let's bring power back just a smidge. And again, wind, it's a fairly stiff headwind, 030, so not a huge crosswind. And then, yeah, we're still just showing a bit above the glide slope. And we're a bit slow at this point, too. So I just need to trim it out a little bit better. We are going down pretty fast. So just managing that vertical speed. Trying to make sure we don't. There is a dial for flaps? Which one is it? That would be helpful, wouldn't it? So here I'm just, again, we're just trying to keep some power in. I didn't think there was a dial for flaps, but I'm just, because the only way I know is looking at the marks on the side of the yellow lever and counting. We're in flaps 30 now. Again, we're a little high. I'm fighting the plane here. So let's go flaps 40. And we can hit flaps 50. Again, we're just trying to keep power in the actual realm of feasibility. Rate of RPMs. Well, we'll have to look at that in a little bit. A little stutter. Ugh. Here we go. Again, I'm at a high angle of attack because I just don't trust the glide slope, I guess. And I shouldn't. I should trust the glide slope. Holy. Little left. Now a little right. But all in all, this is going okay. So we come on down. There's the threshold. Power off. A little hard. We're on the ground. We're gonna cruising out and taxi over to the hangars, I think, over this way. Not the southwest hangars, but the other ones. If I can find something that's not a runway. Welcome everybody to Chicago Midway. And again, you can see it's just a lot of crossing runways here at Midway. And yet, sometimes here I get good performance, sometimes I don't. I haven't figured out the rhymes or reasons, really. But I've been mostly flying CRJs around this one, so. Which is not like that's a super... It's not like that's a lightweight airplane in terms of performance, but anyway, good fun flight. We got a little behind the power curve on that one. We were a little, the bottom dropped out a little bit, so which again, it just felt like we were real low over the, but that's kind of the point, over the town, but that's kind of the point. All right, so thanks for coming along again. Welcome to Chicago. And, yeah, it was a good, fun flight. Nothing too crazy today. Really just, Yeah. We're going to find flight. We're going to cross 3-1 center, 1-3 center. Make a left-hand turn. The right of RPMs. I don't have to turn on AP or anything for this one. Fuel pressure, oil temperature. Flap position. I see it. Yeah, there you go. So that's true. It's right there. Where the flap's up now, 1040. See? It's right on your nose. The designers of Douglas thought of everything for the pilot's convenience. And we'll just pull up right with these folks. As I do my best not to hit any shiny jets. Gonna clear it? We will. Alright, very good. And a little close to the right way. We're gone. We're going to get this thing buttoned up, but again, thanks for coming out with us tonight. This was a good, fun flight. And, yeah, always fun to do some DC-6 action here between Cleveland and Midway. Yeah, Snip says sometimes it would be nice to have an option to make the brakes squeak a little bit less. Yeah, you could get some new brake pads or something. But yeah, it is a squeaky plane. But yeah, definitely a good fun flight, good fun plane. And yeah, we might do some more Alaska ops in this thing too. So anyway, good fun weeknight flight. Thanks for coming along. As always, this has been VFR. Take it easy, y'all. Have a good night.